a tumelo ehe kapa ehe. Nna le wena re tla fenya ntwae. A Modimo re boloke. Boroko pula. It has been 24 days since we went into a national lockdown as a strategic measure to minimize and contain the risk of the spread and transmission of COVID-19 in Botswana. Since then, the majority of our citizens have complied with the health protocols of extreme social distancing, and they have also restricted their movements by staying in their respective homes, which will contribute significantly to the containment of this pandemic. At the commencement of the national lockdown, Botswana had imported cases of COVID-19 and no reports of locally transmitted cases. The most significant development driving the increase of new diagnosis of COVID-19 has been the occurrence of locally transmitted COVID-19 cases. As you may be aware, as of the 25th of April 2020, we had received 6,210 samples for testing, out of which 6,188 were negative and 22 were positive, with one unfortunate fatality, and it is my prayer and hope that this figure does not change. The 6,210 samples include 2,702 suspected cases and contacts. So far, a total of 3,508 people have been placed under quarantine and some in self-isolation. I am happy and delighted to report that the 21 cases that have tested positive are all asymptomatic and on the way to full recovery. Therefore, it is my ardent hope that in the fullness of time, they will join their happy families. As government, our strategic focus, as advised by the COVID-19 Presidential Task Force, is the containment of the spread and transmission of the pandemic in the country. Therefore, the discovery of locally transmitted cases has prompted us to ramp up our testing through contact tracing. A new cluster of COVID-19 outbreak is being actively investigated in Masisi2020, where a total of 7 Botswana have tested positive for COVID-19. These 7 cases from the Masisi2020 outbreak were exposed to COVID-19 prior to the national lockdown, and several Botswana who are not aware of their exposure traveled to their home villages across the country. Active contact tracing and assessment of possible COVID-19 infection for all persons known to have been exposed in Masisi2020 is ongoing across the breadth of the country with support from several local and international partners. This outbreak has resulted in several public and private areas around Masisi2020 being treated as potentially infectious. To this end, appropriate disinfection of these places has commenced under the guidance of health officials. Bagaitso, it is now evident that COVID-19 has taken hold in our communities. And in this regard, more effort and time needs to be directed to break in the local transmission of the virus. Now, how do we break the local transmission? As it was previously reported, on the 22nd of April 2020, 2 new cases of confirmed local COVID-19 transmission were diagnosed from Masisi2020. The known contacts of these 2 cases have been placed in mandatory quarantine and are awaiting further testing. In the unlikely scenario where there are unknown contacts from these 2 cases, such contacts pose a risk of spreading COVID-19 for at least 14 days, starting from the 22nd of April to the 6th of May 2020. It therefore follows that any person exposed within the aforementioned 14 days should have completed their self-isolation between 7th May and 21st of May 2020. Our field teams have also been deployed to Ramotswa, Molepolole, and Sevilla to augment the district health management teams to conduct active case findings because these places have had confirmed COVID-19 cases. In Maharape and Bobonong, there are persons who form part of the Metsimotlabe COVID-19 outbreak, hence their inclusion in the contact tracing. It is on the basis of these findings that the COVID-19 Presidential Task Force advised the national lockdown period as is to be extended by 1 week, starting from the 1st May to the 7th of May 2020, and a further 2 weeks, during which the lockdown would be sequentially eased. The government has accordingly accepted this recommendation. So it is important to inform you that the extended national lockdown also involves an exit plan which is based on the success we anticipate. The extension of the current 28-day lockdown period will be implemented in the following phases. Phase 1, we will extend the current lockdown period conditions by 1 week. That is from May 1st to May 7th, 2020. During this period, we will also develop and finalize regulations for a phased lifting of lockdown rules in low-risk sectors. Phase 2, starting from May 8th to May 14th, we will lift in a phased manner some lockdown rules while at the same time introducing additional plans for further lifting of the remaining lockdown rules. Phase 3, from May 15th to May 22nd, which will be the final week, hopefully, of the lockdown extension, we will be lifting the remaining rules from the original lockdown rules implemented on the 30th of March 2020. Once again, let me remind you, my fellow citizens, that this plan is based on the success we anticipate to achieve as a country. This success is dependent on the cooperation and adherence to the current lockdown rules by citizens and residents of this country. In addition, it is important to note that the plan to relax the lockdown rules will be guided by the COVID-19 disease activity in our communities. That is, a faster relaxation of rules will occur if the threat of COVID-19 becomes very low. However, in the event that the threat of COVID-19 outbreak and transmission exceeds the current level at any point, a return to the original 28-day national lockdown rules or stricter rules will be put in place. My fellow citizens and other compatriots, the economic relief package that I announced at the beginning of the national lockdown is being implemented by relevant government ministries, and they will continue giving you updates on their progress. Furthermore, I'd like to reassure you that government will continue to give you support to mitigate the negative impact of this pandemic through food supplies to vulnerable families. To this end, 300,156 households have been assessed so far, and out of these, 44,080 have been recommended for assistance. To date, 47,393 households have been assisted with food packages which include agricultural products in season. So far, 150,870,083 pula has been earmarked for this exercise. Government will scale up the distribution process of food packages, and this assistance will continue until the situation regarding the containment of COVID-19 is fully under control. So, let me once again thank our development partners, various organizations, the local business community, and individuals for their unwavering support to government's relentless efforts in fighting this pandemic through their financial contributions and donations in kind. Most importantly, I want to thank from the deepest part of my heart the ordinary Botswana and residents who have dug deep into their pockets to contribute the little they have towards COVID-19 Relief Fund. This kind gesture which is a manifestation of one of our founding national principles of self-reliance, will go a long way in ensuring that government and citizens work hand in hand to defeat this invisible enemy. On behalf of the nation, and indeed on my own behalf, I'd like to express our profound gratitude to our doctors, men and women in uniform, together with their support staff, who in the front lines of fighting this pandemic have exhibited unparalleled patriotism and commitment to duty. Similarly, I'd like to thank the citizens and residents of this country for their compliance with the health protocols and the lockdown regulations. Remember to maintain social distancing, cough into your inner elbow, continue washing your hands with clean water and soap, or use sanitizer. We are known to be a resilient nation. Together we'll win this war. In conclusion, let me urge you all to dedicate some moment of your time to ask God Almighty for guidance, wisdom, and protection during this difficult period. With prayer, all things are possible. I thank you. Apulaini. Boroko.